Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Friday. It's November 14th. It's late Friday, so I'm going to move through this rather quickly here. Very obvious range today, and every time we came off the highs, it turned down. Every time we came off the lows, it turned up. There was a little bit of a downward bias. As you can see, most of your big moves were to the downside, and um, we actually kind of went a little bit lower each time. And as we tried to go higher after this high, we were making lower highs. And it's really just a range day, and so you want to play the lows and sell the highs. And you can notice most of the lows here I circled in green. They weren't very good setups. These three are all longs. They're not great setups, but you know it's a range, and the odds are it's going to reverse and go the other way. And you can see everybody figured it out by here, and we were way overdone. Another reason that I like these two is because it's a failed break lower below this support area here, and then this one would have been below this one. And look how far away from the EMA. There's so much room there. You know you're going back to the EMA at a minimum on those. So those are just about sure things there, and I really liked them. So I really almost wanted to make those blue, but because they're first entries and a lot of times you don't get anything better, you know, because first entries generally aren't as good. But I think this was an obvious range day, and I think most of your better traders could see it, and so they would start buying in these areas, assuming that things are going to go higher. So, but anyway, let's talk about the trades, and we'll wrap this one up pretty quickly. Again, for the most part, the lows were around 20, 33, 50. Obviously, we went lower than that, but this is where most of your reversals and touches came in here. And the high was most of your touches and reversals came around 2038. So, it's not a real big range, but there's enough to make some, money in there. There's 5 points in there. And, it obviously had a midpoint. And that's a measured, there's two measured tiers there, upper tier and the lower tier of it. And but let's talk about the trades real quick, make it a little bit bigger, and then we'll wrap this up. But the market opened when I came in somewhere. We were trending up here, and we pulled down. You get a first entry here, you pull back, and you get a second entry long here. But I didn't like it because of all that overlap. Look at all those overlapping bars and dojis in there. And you know what that is? That's a little trading range, a little congestion. So when it broke higher and failed and turned down, you got a failed second entry long there. So I like that one for a trap. Plus, I figured it would come to the other side here, which it does. And then it reversed, and there's not a whole lot of room in there before you get to that low. So you really wanted to sneak in on this one with a limit order if you could, so you could get out before you got here. But even if you didn't, it still would have worked. But I think it would be dangerous to ride that out coming back. But then when it fails again, notice that high. We really tested it once. We really tested it twice. And this is the important area across here where all the closes are and most of the touches. So that's like a double test of that area. And it turns down again. So, I was expecting it to come up here and test these highs. I really was. Um, but you just never, you might have thought about this long because you might have considered that a trap. Um, so if you did, I mean, this one was really questionable. It was almost borderline being green because I could see more people getting trapped, um, thinking that this is most people were probably not going to go short. They were waiting for the long, which I was too, but you never really got one because of this little congestion when it failed. I'm thinking short now. Uh, this makes you really nervous right here if you're still in it and didn't get out. But when it turns back down, now you got the failed second entry long, and there is somewhat of a downward bias, even though this is a trading range. We actually traded up into this area, but we traded down from here into the overnight, and so this one, it, it's almost you could almost call it a downward to a neutral bias, but most of the bigger moves where you can see all the big bars are to the downside, and I think it's really because they were trapping people to the long side. And there was some news that came out in there too that could have affected some of those moves as well. So be aware of that. But I like this one. This failed to the long side. By this time, I'm thinking if you didn't go short here, you probably shouldn't get in this trade because it's just too much overlap and it looks like a little trading, and it is a little trading range across there. So if you move that line up to those closes, you can see that prices are just stuck in there. So you're better off just to sit tight. But when it fails and goes across that top again, now you've got you've got 8 or 10 bars in there that have failed, and so I think it was definitely okay to go short right there. This one might have been a little more aggressive than this one, but you just couldn't go long, and by sitting tight, and that's what happens to a lot of people. They can't be patient. They see that big bullish bar and they think I got to go long, and they're not paying any attention to all that resistance across there and all this overlap, and they end up just switching back and forth a couple different times and get burned, only to watch it end up going where they probably thought it might go to begin with. Although I really thought this thing would probably come up here and test these highs, it didn't. The resistance moved down, and that was probably obvious after a big move like this, um, because the bias was really down when we were making lower highs and lower lows down through here. But anyway, then you come down here and you bounce right where you've bounced how many times previous today, and you bounce right there again. It's not a very good setup. You could count it as a second entry from here, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. Um, and there was also a possibility of a short here, but when that turned out to be all that stem, I think you were taking a big chance of going short right there. So there's nothing there. And you probably could have drawn a trend line here. It might have led you to think, hey, maybe I should go short there. So if you did go short there, good eye, but I just think it was a little aggressive and a little risky, and so I didn't mark that one. Then you reverse, and like I said, this is a little risky too. Not a very good setup. I probably would use a limit order, but I don't know if you'd have got filled on a limit order here. This thing, once it broke higher, it took off pretty good. Um, there was a second entry long here, but you're right back into that resistance, and look, all the overlap and dojis, you just can't go long there either. It goes higher and works out, but I just don't think you can risk that. And we do break out, we turn down. You want to wait on a second entry most times. Um, you get that right here when it broke lower, but look, you've moved so far, and again, you got all that overlap. Just kind of wait and see what happens. Don't be too eager to enter, and you get that little second entry long that reverses and turns down, and it's right off, what's looking like a trend line from those first two swings. That kind of confirms it. And you can see they trapped a lot of people. All the longs had to jump out now and look at it go. Nice move. Probably the best single move of the day so far. And then it pulls back again to the trend line. And now you get, it's right at this midline. So you get a lot of overlap. And really, this is what you got to understand here. This one's not easy to see, but you move up, down, up, down. So there's really like it's almost congestion. It really is congestion because you got three or more overlapping bars. One's a doji. So it's a little aggressive, but it's a retest of this, and we tried to go higher from that support resistance line 2 or 3 times there, and then it turns down. So you probably want to wait on a break below this bar. And try to get back in where the original break was, up in, right here, or maybe one tick back. I don't know if you could have done that or not. It's possible. I can't remember exactly how the price action reacted there, and then it just drops on down. And you're probably should be thinking, I hadn't talked about our measured legs, but there's 2 legs there, so that's your first leg. And so when this next one starts, you want to be thinking measured leg, and it doesn't get there, and notice how it takes off when it reverses. So that would have maybe at least lead you to think that we're probably going to test these lows over here again. And then of course this is a range, so you might automatically buy that one. Real aggressive, not a very good signal bar. I think it's too risky. I circled it anyway. You got a little close outside up here, not much, and then 2 legs down, and that one more little push that fails, and you're moving up. And I don't see any other way to get long in that. It's unfortunate, but there's just no way to get long into that. And notice again across that midline how it closed on its high and then opened on its very low, and it couldn't tick through that line. It's amazing how that does that, but that'll clue you in that you're probably in the right place. And notice how it's acting as support and resistance on both sides. So then you're back at the high. That's a big, nice bearish bar, but you generally have to wait on the second entry. And again, the second entry is right into the EMA. Just not a very good setup. So just kind of wait. Again, be patient. And you get that trap again, and it turns down. And so now you got a failed second entry long. Goes short right there. Quick, easy trade. And this is almost a repeat pattern of this right here. It's very, very similar. Almost the exact same thing. Then you come back. I drew this one in green because it's a first entry, but there's 2 legs up here, then a correction, then another leg up. So that's a first leg with 2 legs in it, pull back, and then a second leg. So it's 2 legs, but the first leg has 2 legs in it. And if you started tracing that out, you'd see that. If you're not used to looking at this stuff, that may not look, you may not see that, but it's there. But so you could have gone short there, but I just think it's too aggressive. I think you got to wait. It looks kind of like a little spike in a channel working up. And so that was the first break, and you're better off to wait on the retest. And that came here. So this is a double bottom. So this, you could treat this like a new low, pull back, first entry, pull back. That's a second entry short. Again, it's not a great setup bar, but it's right off that trend line. And you hadn't had really a close outside this line yet. That's the first little close outside. So you figure you're going to push down to here, and you're probably going to push down to the main lows down here, but it just keeps working lower. And then you pull back and test that one more time. It's like a little breakout. There's some batching lows, it's like a little breakout, pull back short right there. And you could also treat this like, notice that double top. You could treat that like a failed second entry, because you can count this either way. Pull back, first entry, pull back, second entry, it fails and turns down. So a couple of different reasons. Look, everything's back up on the EMA here, and it was tempting to go short here. We weren't quite down to the lows, but I just think you're risking it. I don't think it's worth, you don't know this is going to happen, and it's just not worth risking it. And then, of course, you break below, which, oops, didn't mean to grab that one. This would have been down here by now. Notice that's where you're getting the most touches, maybe even right here. And you get that, well, I don't know why that's disappearing. Something's going on. But you get that little failed break lower, it reverses. And this is close to being this does have a bullish tint to it. So you might consider going long. There's enough room back to that EMA like we talked about earlier. Look at the diff, and at that point the EMA would have been even probably a little further up here. And so I like that one. And that was the last one I marked. There's actually a failed second entry short right here. So if you were still trading, you probably would have wanted to go long right there. And that really gets you into close to the 230 hour, and this one would probably be blue because you got that failed second entry short. So trap didn't take off like you would think it would, but it eventually kept going. And that's the last one I'm going to talk about. Not much more happening after that. So, but anyway, that's what I saw today. Very clear range, as you can see here. I don't know what the deal is with my blue line there. Kind of odd. Now it doesn't go away. It just was doing it when it was. Kind of weird. But anyway, that's what I saw today. I'm not going to waste any more time. It's Friday. I'm going to get out of here and start my weekend. Hope you had a good trading day. Hope you had a good week. And have a great weekend. We'll be back to do it again Monday. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And we'll see you next time.